Hey, good morning. Happy Monday. Happy Monday, Marana, Oro Valley. This is Clint with Move. There we go. Get that hat back just a little bit. Got a special guest back, returning with all kinds of updated information. Milini Simms with Oro Valley. Central planning, I think, is what we just discussed, or planning, or what's your title?
Yeah, principal planner.
Principal planner. That's an important job. And you're back with OV Path Forward, like we've completed this phase of it, correct?
So the phase isn't over, but the big news is the first draft of the plan is out, and which is a big milestone.
Yeah, huge. How long have you been working on this particular project?
So we're about halfway through, so a year and a half.
Year and a half.
Yeah.
So you started roughly at the beginning of 24.
Yeah, October 2023 is when it officially launched.
Okay.
And then it will be on the ballot for the voters in November of 2026.
Okay, great.
So.
Okay, let's just jump right into it. What were the biggest things that you took from this? I mean, what do we want most in Oro Valley? Can you kind of rattle off the top 6 or 8?
Sure. So we spent the first year just learning and listening from residents. And I will say residents in Oro Valley are very consistent with what they value and what they prioritize for the future. So, always, and I think since the general plan back in 1999, safety is always one of the top values. The views and just the scenery and the natural beauty, those are always the two top items that people value and why they live in Oro Valley, what they want to see maintained in Oro Valley. Things we heard in terms of looking to the future is folks want, overall, everybody was just very happy with living in Oro Valley. There weren't a whole lot of, I would say, complaints, if you will. Mm-hmm. In fact, we asked a question, what do you dislike the most about Oro Valley? And the highest response was nothing.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that doesn't surprise me, actually, because if you ask me as a resident of over 20 years of Oro Valley, I can't really think of anything I dislike about it. I mean, we can always get better in certain issues, but I think the safety and the views are probably what I would say would be the most important to everybody there, right? I mean,
yeah, absolutely. And what we really heard of what people want now. So one thing with the 10-year plan is, it is, I would say, the planning leads the effort to work with the community to develop their plan. But it's much more than development and much more than growth. So it does touch on safety, on parks, on economic development, the environment, water, all of it is discussed in the plan. And so as the town starts maturing, we're almost out of land, so the town's almost built. What we did hear from residents of what they want to see moving forward is just more strategic and targeted and focused growth in terms of wanting to see more retail, more restaurants.
Right.
There was a lot of comments of just wanting more things to do within the town limits, to take their families, their people visiting them in town, and just places to kind of hang out, if you will.
Yeah, that would be not what I dislike about Oro Valley, but the things that correct me if I'm wrong, and I believe this is what you shared with me the last time you were here. We are 94% built out.
Yes.
In Oro Valley. So we only have 6% of Oro Valley that we could really continue to develop. Is that the number?
Yes, that is true. So there's about 6% of the land that has no approved plans, completely vacant, that is could be developed.
Because the next thing you said there and I 100% agree with is being strategic with that is really, because when you're down to that much, to be what's the word I want to use, to be you want to do the right thing by that that means you got to be real strategic with that use. But I do believe businesses have to be a part of it because of the leakage that we talked about before. That we've got to. That's the thing that I would say as a citizen that we got to do a better job of keeping the dollars as much as we can. Hey, people are going to go to Costco unless we have a Costco in Oro Valley, and I'm just picking one out. They're going to go to the Costco in Marana, and that's our neighbors, and that's great. But that would be safety would always be my number one concern, and views are pretty important, and amenities, parks, things like that for families are pretty important. And we're, as a region, we're underserved in that. I became aware of that several years ago. Parks, and not just Oro Valley, everybody. We've got plenty of nature. We got plenty of national and state parks, but as far as parks for families to play in, we're way under. And it's not just Oro Valley; it's the whole region as a whole. But was that part of? How did people respond to that? Am I in step with a lot of my neighbors as far as how do we utilize that remaining property for businesses that can produce taxes for our community? Is that pretty much the general take?
So, the first year was really listening to all residents, community members. We did, over 93 events. We had over 9,000 comments.
Wow, you guys were doing 2 or 3 a day or a week then, weren't you?
Yeah, we were, that was our, we were out there. We had residents with us out there helping spreading the word, standing at booths. But then since January, we've been working with, they're called resident working groups. So groups of residents who just wanted to get a little bit more involved in the 10-year plan effort, met around 25 times, not each one, but we focused on a different topic for 2 meetings, and we'd move on to another topic so folks can, if you are only interested in parks, you can attend those ones. But with those resident working groups, they use those 9,000 comments to really create the plan. So this is their first draft going out to the community.
9,000.
Yeah, so they use the 9,000 comments.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it really is, and it really does show. And that's what, I think Oro Valley, everybody knows Oro Valley special if you live there. And the sense of community is definitely another top value of just that feeling of being neighborly and kind to one another. But I will say, Oro Valley, what I love about Oro Valley is people truly care in Oro Valley and are committed to Oro Valley. So even just having so many folks show up and give their evenings to create the plan was impressive and inspiring. But one thing that came out of that and what people will see if they go to ovpathforward.com and look at the plan is, there is a want for even not everywhere, but more mixed-use areas. So seeing kind of that residential next to commercial to try to support those businesses, but also bring in new businesses. So, for instance, what's happening at the marketplace. I think a lot of folks in these groups were really appreciative of what's to come in the marketplace and would like to see that in other areas where you have intersections with lots of commercial that might not be coming to fruition as it was planned to be 20 years ago, and seeing some more residential kind of added to those areas to reinvigorate them.
A good example of that is what we're seeing right here at the mall. That has been completely, for the lack of a better word, kind of like gutted, except for the anchor stores there. And they're building, 3 or 4 story apartments / hotel in there, which is going to be, that. I think that's going to be really cool. I'm not suggesting that necessarily for the marketplace because that's a different setup, but I could see the same thing happening there.
I think it would have to be right-sized for Oro Valley, for sure.
And we mentioned views being part of it, so the minute you get, we know, the minute you get over 1 story high, you're going to have, and I'm not, I say that with a smile on my face. Hey, everybody's got an opinion, a right to their opinion, and I don't want to destroy the views. Right? We want to be able to see that big, beautiful mountain sitting over there to the east every time we look that direction, right?
Right.
I don't want to see high rises in front of that.
Yeah, and I think that was also something that was clear. Through the first phase, we did some statistically representative surveys. So it's a survey that you can apply to all Oro Valley adults because of the way it was conducted. So to your point, we did hear that 1 to 2 stories is preferred. 3 stories might be okay in certain areas, just depends on the topography and where it's located. But anything over 3 really needs to be something super special.
Right.
Like the hospital. Something that the community really wants and needs, and it's still positioned in a manner where it's not going to block views.
Yeah.
So, or conserve views to the greatest extent possible. So, the 10-year plan, it does have this kind of guidance in it. It does have to remain relevant for 10 years, but it does really guide the town into the future. And so, there's so many aspects that do influence the quality of life in Oro Valley. And that's why it's just so important for residents to, even if you only have 10 minutes to go on OV Path Forward, you can take as little or as long amount of time as you want, but comment on it, make sure your voice is heard because this is your plan.
And that's ovpathforward.com.
Correct.
Correct. So we're going to say that several more times through our next 35 minutes that we're together. OroValleyPathForward.com. If you live in Oro Valley, you need to be on there and you need to be participating. You need to be having your voice heard. Because what you just said, I agree with. I remember when the marketplace was coming, it's built, so we don't need to rehash whether it should be there or shouldn't be there. 3 stories seems to me because of the way the lay of that, it would be. I don't think that affects anything negatively unless you're right up on it. So 3 stories seems. Other than I know this may or may not be in the plan. I haven't read it. I'm going to.
Great.
Before this week's over, I will have read every word. You notice I gave myself a week to get through it, but. The Performing Arts Center seems to be a big conversation, not only in Oro Valley, but Marana as well. And that's something that I'd love to see come to fruition. And that would be a bigger building in my mind's eye, something that would hold 5,000 people, or I don't know what the number would be. But I think we'd all would agree if we're going to build something that important, it should hold a sizable number of people for our communities. Is that fair to say? Was that part of the?
So that was part of the conversations. There is a draft action right now in the plan under the arts and culture section about working with a nonprofit, because I know there is a group already in Oro Valley who is working on a feasibility study and trying to look into what
There's some great people on there that
works, where it should go. And so there is an action in there. And again, this is just the first draft. So everything in the plan will be refined.
So let's talk about that real quick. So here we are. We're at the 29th day of September of 2025. This will be on the ballot in November
2026.
2026.
Yeah.
So we've got 13 months to refine this. When will the final presentation? What's your ballpark, or do you have a date on what that is? Because there probably is a statute that says you got to have it.
Yeah. So the state kind of definitely regulates our time frame.
Okay.
And so we have to have so it does go to council for approval before it gets on the ballot. And what council approval really does signify is, hey, this is ready for the ballot for the residents to vote on. And that has to be done by July. So per the state,
as part of the new
it has to be approved by your council 120 days before it's on a ballot.
Okay.
So we do have some
we've
hard
got
deadlines.
3. We've got, so June, let's not count July at all. We've got 9 months.
Yeah.
Before we get that.
To essentially continue to refine it.
Yeah, okay. So again, if you're an Oro Valley resident, you need that's why I always encourage people to vote.
Yeah.
I'm not going to scold you, but if you didn't vote, then you don't be complaining about the way things are, because you're part of the reason why we don't get the change we want, right? Same with this plan.
Right.
It's kind of like you're voting with your opinion of what you'd like to see the next 10 years look like.
And right now, so we are kind of trying to make sure that the review periods are focused and meaningful for folks, because when this whole project actually started with residents creating what's called a community engagement plan. And they actually won an award for that from the state planning.
Who won the award?
The town of Oro Valley residents.
Yay!
Yeah. So
Did we get a ribbon?
we got actually a
plaque?
trophy, a pretty good sized trophy. And so
Yay, Oro Valley residents.
yeah, they did a great job.
Thank you, Shay.
And they, but as part of that plan, they laid out like, here's how we want you to. They gave us our marching orders essentially. Here's how we want you to get with with the residents. Here's how you should engage youth. Here's how you should engage families. All of this stuff. And as part of it, though, they wanted to make sure that every time the community is being called to action, that it's convenient, it's accessible, it's transparent, but ultimately it's meaningful, right? Don't just call us all to action
That's
to
great.
check a box.
That ought to be on a T-shirt.
Yeah. No, it's great. And so this period, we are asking folks to get on OV Path Forward and get your comments in by October 31st. But I want to emphasize, to your point, it's not done yet, though. This is one of many opportunities we're going to be asking folks to come to action
Right.
and lend your voice. So this won't be the last time, but right now we're asking folks to get some familiarity with the plan. And if you see anything that you want to comment on or you have questions, get those in by October 31st. And folks can do it online. So as they're looking through the plan, they can just add their comment there. They could drop them off to Town Hall. There is a PDF. So if Clint, you said you're going to read the whole thing.
Yeah, I can carry it around with me, my little book.
Yeah.
I will probably do that.
You can print it out. You
Okay.
can mark it up
Yeah.
with red ink and drop it
love it.
off, and we'll take the comments. And
So today's again. We got 33 days till this date. What happens after that? So everybody's going to be on there. Everybody's on there. ovpathforward.com. You're on there. You're reading it. You're commenting. You're marking your PDF file in red. What happens after October 31st?
so then we want folks, anybody interested, to join the resident working group. And so we had 4 different groups running last time. We're going to condense into one because now the focus is on the entire plan. And any residents welcome to join. Then we'll start doing some more online meetings. And essentially the goal with those is to kind of go through the comments and ones that still need discussion, especially if there were areas where there may be conflicting information, and to gain consensus.
So this
on the
would
plan.
start then after.
Yeah. So
this would start November
December.
1st, let's
Yeah.
just say.
Yeah.
So November and December, we're going to be in that pace.
Yep.
Going to be refining it. in other
Refining
words.
it with the residents, and then that will essentially, the result of that will be the resident recommended draft. So the next draft of the plan.
Okay.
And then that draft will go through more review, and then we'll start going through the public hearing process. So getting ready for it to go to
And that starts in what, March, April?
March, April.
And that will be at the town
Yep.
hall?
So it will go to the Planning and Zoning Commission and Town Council. And then after Town Council approval, then really it's getting ready for the vote. So raising that awareness, we're going to be asking all residents, especially those who feel comfortable and familiar with the plan, to help spread the word. Most people who vote no on things, sometimes you vote no because, of course, you don't agree with it, but other times it's largely because you don't know what it is. And so,
Well, as always, we're going to offer you guys. I know Byer was going to join us, but he's just so busy.
yes, yeah.
Well, you are too.
Well,
You're maybe
have,
not Byer busy,
yeah.
but you're busy.
I have the luxury, though, of really focusing on this project.
But you guys, as always have a place to come and
Thank you.
discuss this and share this. Because I'm sitting here thinking about what you're saying, and I'm listening to you, and having been a resident of Oro Valley since '02. So part of I can see why we are the community that we are is because these are not hastily thrown together strategies. These are, and I know a lot of the people that are responding and working on some of these committees and how committed they are as individuals, and that makes me proud to know not only these people but to know they're working for the common good of. Because some of these people, the people I know, there's no self-centered outcome expected from these. They just want what's best for their neighbors. And that's a great place to live. Oro Valley and Marana as a whole, having been here again, as Ed used to say, Clint, you live in Marana, you sleep in Oro Valley. Very true. You can just see that I feel like I grew up here. I really do. I feel like this is home. That's no disrespect to Mount Vernon, Illinois, but it's just there's such a comfort here. You know your neighbors, you know your friends. People wave at each other, they speak to each other. You can't go to a grocery store in town or any store in town or restaurant without seeing someone you know. That's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really, really cool. I want us to grow, but I don't want us to grow past that.
Right. And
I don't know, it sounds selfish, but I want that to stay in place.
No, we heard that. There's definitely a want to keep that unique sense of community that Oro Valley has, the suburban character. And that's where it comes back to being very targeted and focused on growth to get kind of those filling in the gaps, if you will. Because there's already so much great things about Oro Valley. So, it's just those little...
if we only have 6% as it currently stands, there's other chatter. We'll discuss that next year after election time. But if we only have 6% in Oro Valley, room to grow, because that's what we're really. So our population is probably just a little south of 50,000. Is that fair, or has it gone over? The numbers I see show it are like 48.
So I think we're around 49 now.
Okay.
So you're right, just a little south of 50.
So if we only got that much room to grow, in Oro Valley at least, our population is kind of we're already kind of, without going up in the air, right?
So we're projected to be, to grow, the max population right now is projected around 55, 56.
Yeah.
And so one thing too, that's a good point, is if we only have 6% and folks want these things, where do they go? So, development won't stop when that 6%'s built. Then you see redevelopment.
Right.
So like the marketplace,
right.
Where the Cold Bear and Cheeseburgers is.
Yeah.
That was a gym for those who are unaware. It used to be a gym. And so that's what you'll start seeing. So this 10-year plan, that's where the residents also crafted actions about redevelopment, making sure it's compatible, making sure all these things are still working together as that will start to happening more and more.
That's where, again, Oro Valley, the Marana Oro Valley experience, there was a reason behind that. We're neighbors. I work in Marana. I live in Oro Valley. So the Oro Valley, or Marana, has room to grow more as far as population-wise. I've heard numbers. I won't throw them out. It's considerably more than 55,000.
Right.
But that's the beauty of the way we view it here at Live the Dream Media and the Marana Oro Valley experience is that's the beauty of the neighbors and the community we have as a whole. I don't look at it as two separate towns. I look at it as one. I know when you're leaving the town limits I know where I'm in the town of Marana. I know where I'm in the town of Oro Valley. I know where I'm in unincorporated Pima County. I know that. But for me, this feels like one big, and that's the beauty of what we're working with. And working with both communities from the leadership standpoint is the more we can blend together, because Marana offers, I said they, like it's someone else. But Marana offers what Oro Valley doesn't, and Oro Valley offers what Marana doesn't. And that's the beauty for me of the big picture here. And again, with the elections coming up in 2026 for town councils and there will be large numbers of people. We're going to elect a lot of
seats.
new council people and mayors in both towns. This will give the same community members a chance to enact some of the stuff they want through their next elected officials, whether they retain who's there or they elect new people. And so that's another opportunity for the community to kind of change the footprint just a little bit, because I know some of them are definitely talking about annexation, which is the only way Oro Valley can spread its footprint beyond the 94 that it's at. I'm not advocating anything now. We'll have plenty of time for that later. But but the same people that are involved in these discussions are some of the same people that are working on 26 from the election standpoint. And which is to me, it's exciting. Here's why. Because people they're engaged, and both the people that are working with you, that have responded to what you're talking about, the general plan, ovpathforward.com, is the same. They're talking about the same thing from an elected official standpoint, and they're talking about safety. They're talking about how do we grow smart, which is great. That's the way isn't that the way it should be?
It is, and that's where, what was really cool, at least to me, so my focus definitely is on that engagement and how many people are involved. So what was really, I thought, pretty cool about the resident working groups is they were online meetings. And so we had groups, we definitely had people who I'd met. I've been at Oro Valley almost 9 years. So I've met some folks. And so we had people that I've met before, but we had also lots of parents that were listening in the meeting and cooking dinner at the same time and then jumping on when they could, or lots of just folks who they were passionate about sustainability, and that's their experience. So they joined. We had whole groups of folks that I think this was their first time being involved in any type
That's
of
great.
governance.
And that means younger people to me in my head. That means younger. And that's the one thing that and you're a younger person. That's the one thing that I'm like, push younger people. It's like, this is your turn.
And it's your future.
This is your turn. You've got to be more involved. People my age, we've had a good run. We brought it this far, but now to make it better and moving into the future, you as younger people have to step up. That's why I love that you are one of those younger. You probably know more about this plan than anybody on the planet, because you've been. That's fair to say, isn't it?
Yeah, probably.
So you know, how many pages is it, by the way? If I pump up my PDF file, how many pages?
The PDF is about 140 pages, but not all of it. So there's appendices.
Yeah.
And
probably a few graphs or charts
glossary.
in there. Yeah.
And I will say, well, on that point, the PDF isn't pretty yet, for lack of another term. It will be eventually, but right now, as it goes through this kind of editing phase, we're gonna wait to add all the pictures. So if you want to see the graphics and all the pictures, that's where you'll want to go online, because what's unique about Oro Valley's plan, and we're not the first to do it, but it's pretty unique in the region, is the whole plan is the website. So you don't have to go on the website and look for a document and scroll through it.
It's the whole thing.
The actual website is the plan.
Yeah, I kind of figured that in my head with the title of it. I'm like, this is its own separate, because there wasn't a backslash in there when you gave the address,
right.
OroValleyPathForward.com. Well, the PDF files that I read are usually, none of them are ever really visually beautiful.
Right.
That's not their purpose. Their purpose is to have information, not the flash per se. At least PDF files that I'm familiar with for the most part.
Yeah, we just wanted to make sure, and we heard this from our residents. So we actually had a resident focus group, if you will, just give feedback on the website. Because we were like, before this goes live, we want to make sure it's representing you guys correctly, but also that it's accessible. What's the use of a website if nobody knows how to use it? And so they went through it, and that's where, the PDF, we don't want any barriers for people to be able to be to get
Right.
a chance to read it and to lend their voice.
I'm going to open it right now.
So sure. So the PDF is there for folks who understandably prefer more of that linear type of reading, and it definitely helps, I think, for folks to be able to navigate the full scope of the plan.
I'm going to give it an open right now. I'm excited. I'm ready to see this pop.
And also on the plan or on the website, you'll see the first section is just the basics. So that's for folks who maybe you don't have a whole lot of time right now. You just kind of want to get an idea of what is this 10-year plan about. There's just some quick fact sheets of various topics that will maybe help if you don't know which topic you want to dive into.
Probably my it's not opening for me, but it's probably back here. It's probably operator error. First thing I double checked was to make sure I spelled it properly. Yeah. I'll get it. It's trying to open. The wheels are spinning.
It's thinking about it.
Yeah, it's thinking about it. Well, you know what? We got a few more minutes. I don't want to leave anything hanging that you feel like we should be discussing right now. So again, what'd you say, 148 pages?
About 140.
Okay, yeah. 140 pages. What stood out to you? Or maybe was there a surprise that you go, I didn't see that one coming? Or was there something that doubled down on what you thought was? And I'm not talking about safety, because that's almost like, we obviously, that's like our creed. Our culture is we want safety, and I again shout out to Chief Riley and all the Kurt Hicks and all the incredible. I'm leaving people out because I know a lot of people over there. What an incredible job of being visible, being present, being available, being involved. Kind of like, again, the community I grew up in the Midwest in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, you basically knew your law enforcement. You knew police officers often by first name. You know, that's what we have in Oro Valley. At least that's my experience in Oro Valley, is you just know these people, you can count on these people, you can trust these people. So I'm not looking for that. Yeah. Because that's kind of an easy one. What was there something though that jumped out at you? Either you doubled down on what you felt, or kind of surprised you?
I would say there were no huge surprises in the fact that we heard so much from the community for that first year. So, the resident working groups, they were definitely tasked with using that. We're not making any big shifts because we've heard from the community. It needs to align with what the community said. But I think some differences between this 10-year plan and the last 10-year plan was with public safety, there was more focus on emergency preparedness. So we were happening to have the resident working group meetings right during the California fires. So that came up a lot, just fires and flooding. Housing has a lot more attention this time around. That's one reason, is because now that we are approaching 50,000 people, we are required to have housing in the plan, where before 10 years ago we didn't have to. And I think there was just more emphasis this time around on parks, those community facilities. Finances was a lot more focused on this time around, economic development, because 10 years ago, there was more focus on development and infrastructure because there was a lot more land. I'm
thinking about the growth around me.
That happened
in
over the last
10 years.
Right.
That there was actually La Cañada ended behind my house 10 years ago.
Okay.
Now Center Point is there.
Okay, yeah. So
think about how massive that, and it's okay. I have to leave my side street doing 35 to get out on La Cañada, but it's okay. No, that's the biggest change. There were houses built in literally my backyard. That's part of. I wasn't necessarily doing cartwheels when those things happened, but that's part of growth, correct?
Yeah.
And I accepted that as Lehman Academy got put in the last 10 years. That made a major change in, moving around up in my neighborhood. Again, you adjust to those things, right? And that's a lot of growth, what I'm talking about. If you know where I'm talking, that's a lot of growth.
It was. I mean, over the last 10 years, there were a lot of the big subdivisions that went in, and those days are gone in terms of there are no
that
more
will not
big
happen. Yeah.
subdivisions. So that was, I wouldn't say surprising, but that was what was interesting, was the focus of this
Shifted.
10-year plan shifted, and the residents really were, growth came up in conversation, of course, but it really was focusing more on, the parks are great, but here's opportunities for improvement, making a more year-round use, having more shade.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Because people do want to get out in the summer. Now right now we're in Chamber of Commerce weather,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
80s, couple nights. See, fall's looks to me like going to start
Yeah.
a little earlier than what it would normally does, which is great. I'm not opposed to the heat though. I'd rather have the heat than cold weather any day.
Well, you're from Illinois, right?
Illinois, yeah. Dan Murray sat in that seat 2 weeks ago today, and we were talking about the coldest experiences we ever had, and both of us was in Minnesota. I was sleeping in a tent with the Illinois National Guard in Brainerd, Minnesota, in January of 1977, and the chill factors got to 30, 40, and 50 below zero.
No.
I was not out there by choice, by the way. I was being forced to be out there. We didn't leave the tents much, I'm going to tell you. So, but yeah, shade is very important, especially during the summertime when kids are out of school. Mm-hmm. And not everybody goes to San Diego, at least not for the whole summer. So shade, I would think, would be a big part of some of the amenities for recreation areas, correct?
Yeah, so that was what came out through, in the first phase we heard that, more indoor options, more shade, just more year-round use. And in the second phase, that's what the resident working group started really crafting, is what do those actions look like? Where are those areas that we want shade around, like having it around play spaces?
Can we have shade with because I'd see it over at Wilson, maybe a couple other places, shade with solar, that we can use convert the solar to light the fields at night? Was that part of it? Because if not, I'll throw that in.
Yeah, that's a good comment to make. That wasn't part of it. So you'll see in the 10-year plan, it is pretty specific, but the details of which the exact shade structure would be, we left out. And one reason, and a resident gave a really good example. We had a draft go out just to the resident working groups of their work only. So just showing their work of, all right, before we get it out to the community, we just want to double check this is what y'all meant.
Is this what you're saying?
Is this what you wanted?
I love how you threw that y'all in there. I love that.
And some of the residents the actions that were written were, use newsletters to go do this, and that. Mm-hmm. And some of the residents were like, wait a minute, why are we saying newsletters? It's 10 years. Who knows what's going to be
exactly
the thing to use in 10 years? And so they said to take out newsletters and just put communication and marketing tools.
Whatever yeah.
So a lot of the comments we got from
great.
the residents was rise it up a little bit, because who even knows what the next 2 years, let alone 10 years.
You know what that tells me? That tells me you definitely have younger people contributing, because older people would say newsletters or mailers, and we deal with that a lot on our content and our marketing is like, hey, you know what? We can send out marketing. We can use postals. But that's not really probably the most effective way to spend your money, because the majority of people are, again, this is how our old company kind of started when I saw Gary V, who I mentioned a while ago, go, this is the new TV. Mm-hmm. This is the new radio. Well, why would we, not that I'm anti-printing a newsletter. I'm not. Right. But that's just not the most effective way.
But why specify that and limit it to
exactly.
that? Yeah.
That's exactly important.
And we had a broad range of ages, and so it was great to, most of these.
Where's it 18 to 80?
I would say, I think there was an eighth. I know there was an eighth grader.
Oh,
so that's 14.
12, 14, yeah.
13. really engaged, gave a lot of comments.
14 to 80 or 85. 14
Yeah,
to
I'm
90.
not sure. And then, so most of these meetings, and what I love as, I'm just facilitating, I'm listening. They're learning from each other, and
Yeah.
they're talking about each other and coming it up.
That's
So
community.
that was, yeah, it was.
That's
And
actually
so-
the definition of community. I love that.
Yeah.
And you know what? On this one, because I say this a lot, especially around here. There's not like wrong answers.
Right.
There's just better. Maybe some are better answers.
Well, and there's not even as people are reviewing the plan and commenting it. There's no wrong opinion or no. That's
Right.
the part of this plan is it needs to represent the community as a whole, and that's a lot of different perspectives
right.
and a lot of different experiences and knowledge. And so that's what we're. If I can't say it enough, is I'm really hoping people will go on OV Path Forward and look at the plan, look at the areas that interest you, read the whole thing,
Yeah.
but add your comments and
Now,
by October 31st.
okay, so obpathforward.com. We've got 4 weeks, maybe closer to 5 weeks left to get that in there. They can comment right on the website.
Mm-hmm.
So just go in there and start reading this. Take time out. You can probably do a surface read of this because you said there was like bullet points, or that was my words, not maybe yours, but you can do a surface of this in 10, 15 minutes, right?
I would say so, yeah. I'd say at least in 10 minutes, you can get an idea of what the plan discusses,
Yeah.
all the topics. And there are they're not even a page. They're probably half a page.
3 or 4 paragraphs.
Yeah, of bullet points. If
Yeah.
you just want to know, what does the plan say about parks? What did residents say about business attraction and retention, tourism?
This is
You can go in.
important. If you live in Oro Valley, Arizona, and we're blessed to do, if you live in Oro Valley, Arizona, get involved in this. If you're already involved in it as one of these citizens group, thank you so much for taking the time, the effort, the energy to be involved in it, and to the 9,000 people that take. I'll do that right there. Tip of the hat to you guys because this is important. I think this is why I love living in Oro Valley. It's just because the community is so. Hey, we disagree a lot about a lot of things that are important to each of us. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't live anywhere else. I just wouldn't. The rest of my days will be spent either where I'm at or somewhere along Moore Road, because I got my eye on a piece of property over there that technically is technically in Marana. But it's still in Oro Valley. Because again, I don't use, for me personally, I have that luxury of I'm in Oro Valley. I'm in Move, the Marana Oro Valley area, and so it doesn't change anything. So we got a couple more minutes. I want to give you the last word. Oro Valley pathforward.com is my last word, but
Yeah, read the plan, comment on it, share your voice. And then definitely look at getting more involved. This is not the last time and I appreciate you having me on, Clint, and would love to come back.
yeah. Well, let's start looking at your calendar.
Yeah. So, this is a really important effort. It does guide town decisions in the next 10 years, and it does achieve meaningful results. So one thing I want to say is I think Oro Valley should take pride in the fact that this plan is used all the time. And we do all those actions that are in the plan that residents are saying, here's what we're charging the town with doing over the next 10 years. We take that seriously.
Yeah.
We do a progress report. So in the last 10-year plan, which will, if this one gets approved, will expire next year, almost 100% of those actions have been implemented. And that, when I say that, what does that mean? Well, that means you start seeing improvements at Naranja Park. You see roadway improvements, things like that. And maybe it didn't specify the exact type of improvement, but the plan gives the guidance that the community wanted to see more at Naranja Park, more amenities, more, things like that.
So you've got till October 31st, which is almost 5 weeks, I think, if I'm doing my math in my head right. OroValleyPathForward.com. Get on there, get involved. Thank you to the 9,000 people that took the time, effort, energy to be a part of this. I will read it this week. I can already tell you, knowing people that are working on it, the people, a lot of people that have responded. I'm going to be, unless I find something that I haven't heard of in there, I'm going to be definitely in favor and supportive of this, and we'll be talking about it a lot between now and next November. We'd love to have you back. Let's look at our calendars. I'd love to have you back in the next 6 to 8 weeks. So we can do a recap on where we're at. Then I'd love to have you back after the holidays are over, so we can do a nice sprint to the finish line. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And Buyer and all the team over there at Oro Valley. You guys, this is part of the reason why I love living there. Raised my kids there. Just an incredible place to live. And if you want to get there, we're running out of space. We got like 6,000 spots open for you to live there. So, hey, thanks for being here. Guys,
Thank you for having me.
thanks for watching. Thanks for being involved. And as I always say,